Hello and welcome to the Benzo Rehab Dungeon, episode 66. It is the 12th of November, 2021. I am your host, Michael Deebs. Joining me, as always, Danko Suvin from the Instagram handle at DankDeluz. Found from his little AWOL incident last week, John, the producer, from the Instagram handle at Discopathic. Some of you were very sweet. Some of you within hours of the podcast being released reached out to ask about whether or not John was okay. Others of you waited almost an entire week. Some of you did not reach out at all.
Yeah, we had everyone linking arms walking through the swamp. But some of you happen to also be holding like pitchforks.
So, John, how are you doing? Would you like to issue any apologies to the listener for your absence last week, or are you just gonna?
Yeah, I'm sorry that the podcast misled you. What they didn't tell you was that I was being held ransom, and that repeatedly my co-members of the dungeon said we don't negotiate with terrorists.
We're also a non-profit podcast, to be fair.
Yeah.
No, we don't have coffers, really.
Yeah. No, so the torture was fine. They left my face alone.
Yeah, which is what you're here for. So.
Yeah. It's actually really convenient that happened, as if it was being backed by certain interests.
Yeah.
Watch your fucking back, John.
It's really weird that the kidnappers just happen to leave alone the one thing that we care about. So
they were wearing the masks of bald, bearded men.
Yeah.
Inverted TBRD logo shirts.
It's just a black logo on a white shirt instead.
Yeah. Is that the? No, we're just fans. Danko, how are you doing today, sir?
Man, I'm doing all right. I have news. Someone sent me, and it shut down the whole neighborhood for a little while.
Okay.
Because when you get warnings about certain ominous sounding things in packages, you got to make sure that you're doing your due diligence. So, among these things that you might be concerned about in packages, one of which I received would be things like white powder, poop could be, an issue, any kind of biological material that you're not expecting, right? Anything that's ticking, perhaps, or anything that is clearly from the bargain bin selling for 99 cents with Obama and Biden's face on it. I received a gift from the listener, Hope Never Dies, an Obama-Biden mystery. And it's by a New York Times bestselling author, Andrew.
Can you hold that up to the camera?
I'm not sure if it's gonna. Okay. Yep.
Yeah, there's a specific angle, and that's it right there.
There you go. We did it, kind of.
So
yeah.
Jesus Christ.
The Obama Biden mystery thing. Man, this is fan fiction for the ruling class, I guess.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest though. Like, I was disappointed by a few things, which I know is surprising when you have a text about Obama and Biden and you leave disappointed. And I haven't finished it. I have started.
That's good. That's more effort than the person that sent it to you probably thought you were going to put into it.
Or put into it themselves.
And you know,
yeah.
not to be outdone by you, just real quick, the same listener is who sent me the Ruth Bader Ginsburg Funko Pop, and just so he knows that I haven't like neglected it, I have shoved it in.
Okay.
Oh,
You
yeah,
started
thank God.
you started reading the book. I started using the Funko Pop.
Yeah. But you did that after you put it, while sealed in its case, into a resin shell. Right?
Yeah, because my main concern is that you didn't use PVC toy safe lube, and now you are going to start to become Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah. You know, if a Ginsburg bites you, you become one. Which is actually how Ruth. Well, no.
Yeah.
Which one was born first, Ruth or Alan?
I would assume
Alan, right?
Ruth.
Yeah, but Alan's dead. He's old enough
but
to be
he
dead.
Did lots of bad stuff.
That's true, but pedophilia doesn't kill you.
More referring to the drugs. The pedophilia seems to be something that he more did to other people rather than to himself.
I think that in
did
fact
you just
keeps you alive forever.
Like apologize there? Like
yeah.
Hey, sometimes the victim of pedophilia is actually the pedophile.
Anyway, I will not dignify that.
Yeah, you shouldn't.
But there's biker fights in here.
My God.
It starts off with it's really great because Biden is grouting his tile because he's relatable and kind of like a normal man's man.
Yep.
He's grouting his own tile in the bathroom, not even in the like kitchen or anything. He's in the bathroom, like on his hands and knees, like doing the thing, you know? So it's a great book. Very impressive. And the author has a picture on the back wearing sunglasses. And again, in case you guys didn't hear me before, he is a New York Times best-selling author, which requires only that you buy a case of your own book from Amazon.
Yeah.
They seem to just hand those out.
They fucking do. Yeah, we know someone.
Actually,
go ahead, John.
Wasn't there like a bit of a scandal where like somebody just like straight up like gave somebody money, but they didn't even like waste the like actual production of the book or something?
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. I mean, it's actually really common in publishing, especially on like political side publishing, to go ahead and like pay someone to just buy a shit ton of their own book.
Yeah.
Just to get the numbers up. So
yeah, it's like Ann Coulter, I think, has been a bestseller before, and she and whoever writes her books, whether it's her or a ghostwriter, writes at a third grade reading level.
And to be fair, like the two types of political books that actually get bought, because let's face it, like leftists don't usually buy their books because the internet exists and they shouldn't. Well, you know, if you want a physical copy, go ahead and buy it. But the books that are going to sell are going to be the disingenuous kind of like, oh, how cute liberal books, and then like vicious pieces that still won't be cracked open either. None of these books are ever opened by like Coulter or like fucking, I don't know, Rubio or something like that. Like the amount of these books I've received from family as holiday gifts, incredible. Like I've gotten rid of a lot of them, I'm gonna be honest.
Like you checked around the corner, like.
But I've got at least like probably enough for a couple shelves, like, you know, spaces on a bookshelf. It's
and
they buy them and just hand them out to everyone as candy.
The other reason that books like Ann Coulter's books or fucking Rush Limbaugh's books back in the day get sold so much is because they're so inflammatory, and liberals just can't fucking like resist the urge to read something that's like inflammatory, basically. And it's like, oh, can you believe what Rush Limbaugh said in his new book? Now we're gonna spend I don't know how many media hours of time over reporting the fact that Rush Limbaugh, unknown conservative racist dickhead, said something horrible in his book, and we're just gonna run with that headline for days.
Right, of course. I was going to disagree with you at first because I think in the 90s that was true for like liberals on whole. But like now it's definitely just fucking like lanyards. Lanyards are the people that do that. Whereas anyone else that's like a liberal PMC, like they don't buy the book. They just don't. They're scared of buying it.
No, but
kind of
they
thing,
report on it so much that I think
exactly
it just permeates into like either people who, you know, agree with the statement and are like, oh hell yeah, I'm gonna support my boy Rush Limbaugh, or people
Right.
who are like, oh, I can't believe that somebody would write this. I need to see it for myself.
Exactly.
Sort of stuff.
Exactly. Which is why I'm saying like lanyards, I think, are the people that end up buying it. Where just like I go to all the conventions and stuff, and so I bought like 12 copies of Rush Limbaugh's new book just so I could gawk at it and be terrified.
Yeah.
But
speaking of gawking at the, did you have more? Sorry.
No, nothing of real note. I was probably going to cover the same ground again.
Okay. Speaking of gawking at something and being terrified, we recently, because we're film connoisseurs.
Yeah, we're media people.
We're media people.
Yeah.
We very much value the arts, film being among them. We recently reviewed a movie called Clifford, the Big Red Dog. John, could you please play the trailer for this movie?
Of course.
Clifford, no fetch! Clifford!
Oh, the scream.
No, please keep going.
Sorry.
I thought I heard pause.
Well, yeah, no,
I said something, but it doesn't matter. I was just offended by the scream sound effect.
There was a Wilhelm scream. Is it Wilhelm or Wilfred?
Wilhelm.
Wilhelm, right. I was right first. All right, cool.
I think.
No, I think it is Wilhelm. There's a Wilhelm scream in it twice, like in the actual.
Seriously? Okay.
Yeah, it happens twice. It's
you've got a Wilhelm scream followed by an amen break followed by a Wilhelm scream.
Yeah.
Or Wilhelm. Jesus, I did the same.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Please continue.
You may not believe it, but there is magic all around us. There are times it can be hard to find.
Did you bring your garbage to school?
But sometimes the magic finds us.
Look at you, Uncle Casey. So cute.
I'm so red.
How big is he gonna get?
That depends, doesn't it?
On what?
On how much you love him.
I wish we were big and strong, and the world couldn't hurt us.
The dog is big.
So what I've gotten from this is that a magic sorcerer,
John Cleese.
Yeah.
John Cleese,
Please.
threatened a girl into growing a magical dog into a giant.
That's actually more right than you might actually believe.
Yeah, no, like, because like, what's this insinuation that she doesn't love the dog enough? Like, what happens to the dog? Does it get smaller?
Well, the thing that's worse about it, sorry, Mike, is that the way that John Cleese ends up, and we'll get into all this stuff, but the way that he ends up introducing her to the dog is they go into a magical room where if you're not looking for a pet, you discover a pet. And so it's like,
So he does.
Offensive, I don't even want to say it.
So he does threaten her, like he insinuates this dog's survival depends on her love, right?
Yeah, well, so what happens is that he walks them in a room and he says, "Here's the room where consent is always broken."
Oh, Jesus!
And then they're like, "Okay, I don't know how I feel about this," because there are protestations as they walk into the room, and then suddenly, when forced with this new non-consensual responsibility of having a very small thing for a young lady to take care of. She is now told that she must raise it to adulthood using her love, or else she doesn't love it. So I'm just going to say we know what's happening in this film.
You know, I would like to piggyback off of your analysis there.
Yeah.
Because what I also got out of this particular moment, and why I kind of wanted to play this trailer, is John Cleese very clearly says that the dog's size will be, comparative to how much you love it. And so what I get out of this is that love is finite, because the dog does not reach an infinite level of size. He actually doesn't get really all that much bigger than a room. So
Right. Well, so I don't remember the exact quote, but there's a problem that Shakespeare brings up that applies directly to Clifford the Big Red Dog, which is in Macbeth. It's one of my favorite lines, which I cannot in fact cite because I'm actually an idiot. But they say we should not mourn someone for the amount that we love them, because if we did so, our grief would never end.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah.
And of course he says it in fewer words because he's a fucking genius and I'm an asshole. But yeah, so you see that occurring here where John Cleese walks up and says, "Fuck Macbeth, you're wrong. This dog is proportional to your love. Now prove yourself." In this weird metaphor for why we need abortion for rape victims.
Oh man. Let's keep rolling it from there, I guess.
Yeah.
Uncle Casey!
Oh no, we're gonna be late for school.
About the dog?
The dog sure is goofy.
Ew! Bless you. Shouldn't we try to hide him or something?
It's yours. No one will even notice. Pizza. Just a big. Whew. Why don't we get you on the scale here, bud? I'm just gonna write heavy.
What if you found someone who made you feel like you could do anything? Clifford, no fetch! Oh no.
No, doggy!
Why twice?
This dog.
See, I'm telling you, man, it's twice in the movie too.
Oh, God damn it.
I would love to watch a big red monster paralyze somebody.
Yeah.
I mean, implicitly, the dog does do a little bit of murder. There's no way somebody lives through some of the things that the dog does.
Yeah.
Also, quick note, but this movie's really having it both ways in a weird way, which I think ends up speaking to the kind of liberal audience that is writing and consuming it. Yeah. But they describe Harlem as both being like a shithole and for this little white girl and her British mom. And also it's apparently nice enough to have like people wandering around in parks, like in these weird inflatable balls and shit. Like it's both like this fun fantasy place and also like, oh, you don't want to go there.
It did have a rape pet shop though. So
it does have a great magical pet shop that does, to be fair, randomly disappear. I wasn't going to go into the thing you thought I was going to do. A pet shop that no, I have to stop.
Let's round this clip out real quick,
please. This dog is killing me. Here you go. Sorry, set it on the screen.
Oh look, they're playing. Well, you don't see that every day.
Maybe it's time to feed him.
All right.
So much relies upon a big red dog.
So I have some notes.
Okay.
I think it's time for us to put John Cleese down.
Oh man, yeah, it's probably a sign.
Yeah.
So it's very sad to see him go from, comedy genius to now he's in Clifford the Big Red Dog. What's not as sad to see, because none of these people are comedy geniuses, is there's so much SNL cast in this movie.
Yeah.
There's like 3 or 4 people, I think, from SNL.
I also need to point out that it's related to all of that, but all of these people, SNL people, John Cleese, the dog, all of these extremely famous people that are otherwise like generally rather talented with some exceptions. This is a movie that, if I'm not wrong, was made by and released on Paramount Plus, a thing that I don't think anyone has.
No, yeah, this is a straight to doo-doo streaming service,
which is a thing that's extremely common now, but like, I don't know, HBO Max is already bad enough, and I don't think that we need like fucking Paramount Plus to add on to that to make movies. Oh man, I also thought Paramount fucking, didn't they collapse?
Yeah, I think they had some kind of COVID related collapse, but I think they might have gotten bailed out on.
No, I'm talking about before that. Like years ago, there was, I might be thinking of someone else or someone that like Paramount was partnered with, but
Yeah.
there's some kind of bankruptcy. Anyway.
Let's see. There's a lot of very I would describe them as racist caricatures in the movie. Would you describe them that way?
In the no, the whole movie is attempting to talk about how cool diversity is while being extremely racist about it.
It's doing brought up diversity,
yeah, it's doing the exact same thing, close to the exact same thing that they did in Bright, which I remember having a essentially violent conversation with someone, drunk conversation after watching that movie. Because they weren't able to see how like bizarrely racist it was, but it's the
cool because the orcs
racism.
Are accepted, even though we all know that the orcs are like different and maybe not as good, and maybe a different color of people.
Right. So that's exactly what this movie is saying, where it's just like, so all the races are in fact different. That's what makes them cool.
There's so much race realism in this movie.
Yeah, you really expect like RPG like sand music to play as soon as like an Arab character walks in.
I mean, it
like,
almost
really
kind of does that with like the Cuban fellows.
Fair.
So, and then the other thing, there is a funny moment, which I don't think it was funny intentionally. But where Clifford and Elizabeth are running through, like they're escaping everything. It's near the end. They run through a construction site, and all the construction guys see this massive giant red monster dog running through their construction site, destroying everything. And there's just this guy in the foreground going, like not running in terror or anything, just like, hey, I'm building here.
Does OSHA have rules about giant red dogs?
I don't think so.
I mean, the red seems like he's actually colored for OSHA.
Maybe, yeah. It's a giant warning sign.
Yeah.
Workplace safe. And probably flammable.
Then there's the Asian racism that plays into it, where the Asian kid is like really geeky and academic, and of course
he secretly good at kung fu.
This is my favorite part of the movie, the whole China thing. It's fucking incredible.
Yeah, go ahead and go into that.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. So this movie is simultaneously an allegory about reproductive justice and an allegory about communism, right? Because what happens, so I'm gonna like lay out the film just in general in order to get to this point, but so what occurs is that this poor little girl living with her mother, her uncle lives in a van outside the house.
Can we just pause real quick right there?
Yeah.
By poor, you mean somebody that can afford a several bedroom apartment in New York?
Yeah, imaginary poor. They're
calling this girl poor, but like really she goes to a really nice school. Her mother has some kind of law degree or something like that.
She's a paralegal.
Paralegal, but whatever. She's living incredibly well in New York, all things considered.
Of course. Yeah, and it's I mean it's again like what a lot of upper middle class people imagine poverty is, where they they both believe it's like extremely squalid, but then also like surely it's manageable. But so there's all this stuff around housing, and of course there's this big black guy that's the janitor, the super, and he is of course a threatening presence in this film, and he's like breaking into people's apartments to fix their sink, and so there's this whole like weird Maoist thing, but also very optimistic. And then what ends up happening is this, of course, this giant red animal, what could that possibly end up being a metaphor for, ends up escaping. In capital, being these people that run essentially Monsanto, are constantly trying to capture it and neutralize its ability to run around the city, being friends to people, I guess. And so what ends up happening with this little girl is she's newfound friends with this small Chinese boy, and his father has some kind of ridiculous, because it's a rich kid school again that she's only at because of like some kind of lottery system and like scholarship money, which again is like the imagined liberal version of what it's like to be poor, is like instead you have to have scholarship money and feel bad about it.
Yeah, you're poor, but there's still plenty of chances for you to get ahead, aren't there?
Right. And so his father has some kind, I forget what he does exactly, some kind of ambiguous businessman, but he has this logistics capacity so that he can ship the dog to Shanghai, literally Shanghai the dog, as it were. Yeah. And so there's this beautiful image of like this Chinese businessman with his son and this little like poor girl from Harlem, again white, important to note, who are helping this giant red communist dog onto a freighter so that he can get shipped off to Shanghai before Monsanto gets him.
And if anybody at this moment is like, there's no way this is the actual plot of the movie. This is the actual fucking plot of the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Wait, I started this. I was doing some work. I just started a new job, and I'm kind of like doing a little bit of like prep work just so
Mike and I were both working as we watched this to keep in mind. So we probably missed everything. But
well, no,
but just half watching, like this is what we managed to pick up. Sorry, Mike.
And I kind of just like threw it out as a joke in our little group chat. Hey, I'm gonna do a review of, because I was looking for something to just kind of like have on in the background while I crunched a bunch of numbers and shit.
This is weird. You picked Clifford for that.
Well, I loaded up the very legal website where I watch all of my movies.
Paramount Plus.
Yes, Paramount Plus. I loaded up Paramount Plus, and they didn't have a very big selection, and I saw Clifford the Big Red Dog, and I thought, hey, this will be a shit posty thing I can do. I'll kind of half watch the movie and do a dumb review about it. And then this turned into so much more because, quoting you from while we were watching it, this is such a tonally confused movie.
Oh yeah.
That doesn't understand what it's doing, what it's saying, where it's going, what is even happening in it half the time, because it just bounces back and forth between like jovial fun time to the big corporation is trying to kill my dog, and and then like there's no like break or like difference in tone in the movie through it. It's like
right
between all these things, so you've got like these contexts of like, oh man, this is really horrible that this company is trying to steal this dog and probably kill it, and then like there's no like change in like tone there, like it never loses that like bright cheeriness.
Right. Yeah. But sorry, John, really quick. One of the tonal inconsistencies that it does have, though, is that it genuinely, at least to me, felt like a different movie dependent on the race of the people that were being depicted at the moment.
Absolutely.
Like, this is a deeply, deeply racist movie.
It's so racist.
It's really weird. Sorry, John, go on.
Well, I guess my question was, how's the corporation going to make money by killing the big red dog?
No, they're not going to kill him probably, unless they need to like put him into a centrifuge to like get his DNA out, because really they want his DNA.
Oh,
because they think they can make things big using big dog.
Oh yeah,
that's as far as,
because that's how DNA works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems. I could totally see a major corporation basically believing that.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
It's
If
not
we just
outside
place,
the realm of belief.
if we place this dog into the macerator, we can learn things more doggy.
Let's crunch it into grow big juice. Let's see. So how does Clifford end? Clifford ends when
I don't even remember.
So
What does he do? Yeah. After peeing on
government
things and eating
finds
other
Clifford
dogs.
the big red dog on his way to Shanghai. So the Shanghai
Yeah.
transfer actually like starts, and then the U.S. government finds and confiscates Clifford the big red dog. The corporation has claimed that the big red dog is theirs.
And they send him to Taiwan. They don't.
So the government delivers the dog to the corporation. The corporation is doing tests. The community bands together because Clifford saved one of their folks at one point, and so
After
now,
crippling many of them.
well, the crippling is more implied than like displayed.
Okay.
I personally think several people wouldn't have lived through what Clifford did to them, but it's
No, the guy tossed around in that big balloon would have been like just like a bag of bones.
Also, I would imagine, based on the statements by this like biotech company, that bathing in this dog's urine is probably going to do something to your genetics.
Okay, yeah. So actually, that's something that does need to be brought up. Is there's some weird, pretty gross humor in this. Wherein so the scene in the trailer where the little dog and Clifford meet. Clifford makes Elizabeth, the little girl, raise the little dog up to his asshole so the little dog can smell it.
And he gets stuck in there. He doesn't.
He doesn't get
That'd
stuck
be,
in
that
there.
would be funny. That would be funny to me.
But yeah, no, it's like they're doing the like dog pace around each other thing, and then the kids put it together and they're like, oh no, I think he wants, and it's like Clifford could just lay down, but instead he makes Elizabeth like raise the dog up to his asshole.
And Clifford must have an extraordinarily pungent butthole.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Let's be fair.
Yeah. Imagine what those anal glands.
Yeah, those anal glands, which have never been expressed, as they say.
Yeah.
Yeah. And dogs, I don't know if anyone knows this, but dogs have a very good sense of smell.
They do.
Yeah. Surprise.
And then at another moment, Clifford decides to pee on a tree, as dogs do. However, Clifford is a very big dog, and so what ends up happening is he pees on the little girl, the uncle, and I think somebody else. Like, he just pees on them.
Oh, blast him with piss.
Like, is that necessary? Do we need to have like a piss kink sort of like segment of the film? Probably not. Probably could just get away with like, oh man, and like they never show his penis. If you're gonna go through all that trouble, show the fucking dog's dick.
You gotta show the dog dick.
Yeah. Don't just make me imagine how big Clifford the big red dog's dick is. Show me that red rocket.
Is Clifford a girl?
No, Clifford's a boy.
Yeah,
Clifford.
Do we know that?
Clifford. Come on, man.
Yeah.
Man,
we're being really
I looked up
yeah.
whatever Wikipedia lore there was on Clifford, and Clifford was always a boy dog.
Yeah, it sounds like bullshit to me.
Okay. All right. Well, you can log on to wikipedia.com and fight that out with the review board there.
In the film version of Clifford the Big Red Dog, Clifford is obviously a lady because no penis.
Oh well, you're not going to get a very substantive answer out of how big Clifford is because his size varies wildly. Because the illustrator.
Also true.
Oh, you're looking up his dick. Okay.
Okay.
That might be more concrete.
This is not a Google that we need to do.
Yeah.
Go to images.
Oh, do we dare?
No, we don't.
Yeah, approximately how big would Clifford's penis be? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, click on.
I mean, I imagine like a couple feet. You know. Clifford the Big Red Dog.
Let's not go. No, don't click
go.
the 18.
Yes.
Come on. Oh man.
It's just a question.
If I
Yeah,
need...
it's a scientific question.
Let's move on to something more substantive.
Clifford is pretty substantive, let's say.
Oh, I did my last note on Clifford is I believe that Clifford is a metaphor for the destructive, blind menace of communism.
Yeah, totally.
Not necessarily what I agree with. That's just what I think they're trying to get across with Clifford.
Well-meaning, but damaging. Unless
Well-meaning.
you regulate.
hey, you know, it's something that seems good in theory, but every time we try it, the big
Clifford...
red dog of communism pees all over a little girl.
Yeah, Clifford only works well in small communities.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I said last week I would talk about some of the issues that are facing government workers and why government isn't functioning so great on a local level. You know, it's not functioning great on the federal level either. But this is more firsthand information that I have and how government is functioning, or rather the lack of government function. So the first thing that I wanted to bring up is it is fucking impossible to get anything done on the local level in general right now. And this is, as far as I can tell, not just something that and getting something done. What do I mean by that? So I used to work for a public works department. Last Friday was my last day on the job.
Inshallah.
Yeah, inshallah, God bless. Now I'm working for greedy capitalists. Not that really anything much has changed, but my life is significantly better right now. Not because I'm working for greedy capitalists, but just their expectations are so much. So the first thing is there's been a lot of really well-meaning legislation. Some of this goes back. We'll look at it. This law that we're going to look at right now. This goes all the way back to 1931. Great piece of legislation. I think it's something that has done a lot to benefit workers. What has happened, though, like with all good things that have been legislated, is there's a very money-powerful group of people who have found a way to exploit the system so it benefits them and actually does not do what it was intended to do in the first. So the first thing, go ahead. Were you saying something?
No, just what?
Oh yeah. So the first thing is the Davis-Bacon Wages Act, something like that. Let's go ahead and scroll down. This is just kind of a quick and dirty on the Davis-Bacon laws. If you've ever worked on a government construction project, you probably heard the name Davis-Bacon, or else those two words might be why you've never bid on a publicly job. Technically, Davis-Bacon is the name of just one piece of prevailing wage legislation. However, people often use it to refer to all sorts of prevailing wage requirements, and it does give contractors a lot to consider. But diving into the facts about one of the construction's most debated sets of laws can help take the doubt out of Davis and bring home the bacon for your... Some good writing right there.
Man,
Yeah.
Internet writing, the best.
Yeah. So this article is correct. This is very contested, and the way it's contested, I'll get into a little bit later. But basically, what prevailing wage law is there's a trade. Let's say the trade is plumbing. If you've got a public works project, so this is my job role was to maintain city infrastructure, primarily related to government buildings. So my scope is limited in that, I only have a certain set of crew, and what we're doing is more maintaining existing structures. If something needs to be installed, built, constructed, whatever you want to say, call it, that's going to require a contracted force, because it's not something that we're always going to need all the time. It's something that we're just kind of reaching out for. Hey, we're building, a site over here and we need to run plumbing to it, so we need to get a plumbing contractor to run that. So you have a plumbing contractor, and plumbers, they have, apprentice, journeyman, masters, etc. There is what's called a prevailing wage for all of these roles and levels of plumbing work. And what a prevailing wage is basically like, yeah, you could technically be paid minimum wage to work a plumbing job, but we all agree that plumbing is worth, let's say, $30 an hour at a journeyman rate or a journeyman level. So that's what prevailing wage is. It's the wage that prevails over like whatever shit like pay you want to actually give somebody as somebody who's like trying to be greedy and selfish. And it's like, no, this is what a plumber is worth.
Which, random note to go along with that, in a lot of European and Scandinavian countries, when you're told that they don't have a minimum wage, what they mean is that they don't want to tell you that they have something similar to prevailing wages, where different types of workers make certain types of money as their minimum wage. They have minimum wages.
Yeah, and this is something that is used a lot when people talk about like especially like Scandinavian like countries, is they'll be like, well, Norway doesn't have a minimum wage, and it's like, well, yeah, Norway is like 99% unionized almost.
Yeah,
it's something insane to nearly that level, and the unions basically set the minimum wage for each trade, rather than what we have here, where unions like barely fight to increase a minimum wage for a trade.
What is union membership like here? Like 20%, something like that?
Yeah,
is it
it's pretty fucking low. It's somewhere around 20%.
I haven't checked the numbers in a long time, but yeah,
it's incredibly low, and because it's so low, even if you have the benefit of being in a union, which is something that I've experienced firsthand, and why I ultimately left the city job was not just the issues with government work, but also how my city was running things, and the union just doesn't have the same power that it would have anywhere else, because it's just it's a city workers union, and it doesn't have the same power as a union over in Europe, where everyone's unionized, and if one union is getting like really abused, all the unions will just stop, and obviously they can't let that happen.
I would also like to really quickly just say that no, that is me splitting the difference on accident. Union membership of the public sector is 34.8%. In the total union percentage is 10.8, which means in the private sector it's even lower, because I think the public sector is probably, again, I'm probably going to fuck this up because I'm working off of memory, probably about a quarter of the country. And so, I mean, you do the fucking math there.
Yeah, no, I think the overall unionization,
Jesus, extremely low. 10.8, yeah.
I wonder if it's higher when he gets into specific trades, though.
Yeah, it is.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Specific trades. I have met very few electricians that don't have a union.
Whereas you don't know any retail people that are in union, so
exactly.
they're offset substantially.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's a very big possibility that I've just run into a certain set of electricians that are all unionized, but from my understanding, most electricians are unionized.
Yeah.
So, what is the Davis-Bacon Act? As I'm trying to pour a vodka cranberry without spilling it. The Davis-Bacon Act of 1931 requires contractors and subcontractors working on federally funded jobs to pay their laborers wages and benefits no less than what others locally pay their workers for similar projects. This is called the prevailing wage. Let's go ahead and go down. So Davis-Bacon generally applies to contracts in excess of $2,000 to which the U.S. government or District of Columbia is a party. It includes construction, alteration, or repair of public buildings and public works. So go to the next link real quick. We're going to bounce to that next link and then come back. But this link, so this is an inflation counter. And if you could go ahead and punch into the year 1931. And then the dollar amount there, which you're over, just type in 2,000. and then calculate that. So back in 1931, $2,000 is worth equivalent to $36,000 today. So obviously things have changed quite a bit since then, and since this is like mostly on the federal level, what a lot of local municipalities did is they set much higher thresholds for what they would consider, or not local but state, what they would consider, applicable for prevailing wage law. Up until I think it was April of this year, basically any job up to $15,000, I think it was not subject to prevailing wage for projects that I was working on. So let's go back to the previous link real quick. And so there's a bunch of Davis-Bacon related acts. These two gentlemen did a lot of work for labor. I don't know exactly what their politics were, but at the very least they were good for labor. They were good for progressive sort of measures to help workers, especially workers working on government projects, get fairer wages. Let's go ahead and go 2 links ahead. Yep. And so this is a good tool for anybody who thinks that they may be being underpaid for their job. You can go to the DIR. Every state should have its own DIR website. So this is the California Department of Industrial Relations website. And what you can do is you can look up your trade. It's sorted out by apprentice, journeyman, and master. And you can basically look up like, oh, this is what the prevailing wage for this kind of work is. So, if you want to make the case for your employer to pay you more, this might be a good resource to get like an idea of what the prevailing wage is for your trade and your kind of work. This is what is used when we were going out for contracts. We would reference the DIR to figure out what the prevailing wage for a project is, to make sure that the contractor was indeed paying their laborers appropriately. Unfortunately, go to the next link. So what ended up happening early this year, April of 2021, is what would apply to prevailing wage work was expanded greatly. So I laid out that earlier in the year, or earlier in my career when I was running projects, $15,000 was where the prevailing wage requirements kicked in. What ended up happening is this expanded to anything and everything that was a public works project became prevailing wage. And the initial sort of thought that comes with that is like, oh, well, that's a good thing, right? Unfortunately, it's not. It's a well-meaning thing that I think was used insidiously in some ways, because what's happened is prevailing wage projects being at that like $15,000 threshold meant that these are for big projects that are, not only just big projects, but also lucrative for the companies that are, invested in completing them. Lucrative for obviously the employees who are making probably more than they would normally make doing the same work, etc. What expanding it in this way has done is essentially priced out the mom and pop shops that we would normally use for smaller projects. So what I was running into a lot, and what became kind of just like a vice that I was stuck in at work, was you would get, let's say, a minor concrete repair needs to be done at a public facility. You get a quote for it at $2,000. Used to be back, last year, 2020, I could just throw out a purchase order, get that done. Everybody goes home happy. What ended up happening is since it was expanded so much, I could no longer rely on those mom and pop shops to do those small jobs where, yeah, their workers probably aren't making prevailing wage, but they're still making a decent rate comparatively to a lot of jobs that are being worked around here. And the problem is that these are such small jobs that the bigger companies don't want to take them on at all. What ends up happening is you've got a problem, you want to fix it. The only people that will work on it are too small to have the personnel infrastructure to do all the prevailing wage rate reporting, which is a huge job actually, because the state requires, you know, lots of detailed information on not only what you're paying the worker, but any kind of benefits you're giving them, etc. A lot of companies in this area, a lot of construction companies. In fact, one of the consultants that my city was using used to be a construction company, and then what they ended up finding out is, oh, if we get into prevailing wage consultant work, which is basically they're working for the city to ensure that our contractors are reporting their prevailing wage requirements properly, they actually make more money because it's less effort on their part, less risk on their part, and all they have to do is, you know, go through somebody else's work to make sure that they did it right.
And quick clarification. So the prevailing wage applies to jobs over $2,000, right? And that is not adjusted, in fact, for inflation. It's remained $2,000 since.
It did remain at $2,000. It was adjusted at the state level, and now what the Supreme Court has done is they've said no, $2,000 is what it is, no matter
right.
what.
And so
go ahead.
The problem, as I understand it, is that needs to be adjusted for inflation, so that we're talking about prevailing wage applies to jobs of like $36,000 and above.
Correct.
Okay.
Because having prevailing wage requirements for a job that's $2,000, and you know,
it's
ludicrous at this point, because you're paying, you know, your worker, let's say $300 to do the job, and then you've got all the material costs associated with it. So, you know, a $2,000 job, a lot of that is wrapped up in paying the workers, paying for materials, and then when you have to do prevailing wage reporting, you're paying a whole person to just do the reporting part of it. And so for a lot of these mom and pop shops who would normally take on these smaller jobs and, you know, would, you know, help boost the local economy, you no longer have that anymore because they can't pay for that extra person a lot of times.
And exactly. And so just to throw numbers at people, if this is a job that, say, takes a week, and someone is making $35 an hour prevailing wage for a $2,000 contract, that ultimately means that $1,400 of that is being spent on the wages for the worker, and then $600 is going into the company for any other purposes. And ultimately, though, I mean, obviously, I think everyone here agrees that people should be paid really as much as we can pay them.
Absolutely.
Without adjustment for inflation, that those kind of numbers where $600 out of this project ends up going into the rest of the infrastructure of the company and whatever other regulatory, you know, fees or anything like that is totally infeasible. And so if it were applied, again, sorry to get like real bogged down in this, but I think it is the central problem where if it were adjusted for inflation, that problem just purely would not exist.
Precisely. And why the expansion of, and you know, you look at the date on this article, it's April 12th of 2021. And like I said, you know, all the way up until early this year, I was able to just knock these projects out. I was, you know, not to toot my own horn, but I was well regarded in the city for getting things done in a really quick and efficient manner, because I learned the rules of the system, and, you know, not that I'm like gaming it or anything. I just knew how to execute them effectively and run projects that way. That's why I went from being, you know, I started at the city as a lead worker in 2018. And then before the end of 2019, I was promoted to a supervisor position. I was proficient at this kind of thing.
And sorry, what really quick to rewind. A lot of these jobs, I imagine, I mean, there's a lot of jobs in these sectors that one person can do, but there are still very, very many jobs that require at least two people, right? And so again, if you end up crunching the numbers, that ends up meaning 2 people working on a project for a week that goes well over that's almost $3,000 right now just in prevailing wages. And so that's
electricians don't work alone for
right
because that would be suicidal. I mean, you have any kind of incident where you get electrocuted and there's nobody there to like pull you off the live wires.
House painters barely work alone. Like
house painters should not work alone.
No, they shouldn't.
People don't understand, the danger of digging a 3-foot trench. A 3-foot trench can kill you like almost instantaneously if there's some kind of like giveaway in the trench.
Right.
So, you need to have not only just one person digging that trench, repairing the pipe or whatever. You need to have somebody digging that trench, repairing the pipe, and then another person that's ensuring safety is being looked after, making sure they're monitoring the walls of the trench for any erosion or anything like that while people are working.
It's something that's always really bugged me when people and I understand some of this is people trying to extract, which honestly you fucking should, if you're a worker, try to extract wages. But when you're driving by like a construction site and you see that some of the people aren't working, it's because they actually are working.
Yeah, they are working. They're just not working in a way that's obvious to you as somebody that's driving through there for like all of a minute.
Yeah, sorry that not everyone is digging every moment that you end up crossing through.
Yeah, and there are jobs that are contextual, like all right, we've got the master plumber working on a 4-inch main line, and he's doing all the welding work, and then you need to have somebody that comes behind him and certifies the weld and that sort of stuff.
And
go ahead.
Saying this as someone who does supervisory, like managerial work, there are almost no circumstances in which people like us are necessary, except for in circumstances like that.
So that's one problem. Is they change the rules in such a way, and there is a bunch of internal stuff going on in my city that I don't think is really useful to the purposes of this discussion.
Though funny,
very funny. I don't know if there's any way for me to like.
No, I wouldn't risk it.
Yeah, there's probably no way for me to publish some of the hilarious encounters that I had with new management that was handpicked because they know certain people.
That's exactly something that I wanted to say since the beginning here, which is that people talk about how you need smaller governments in order to avoid corruption, which is the dumbest fucking thing in the universe. And let me just describe it this way, right? So there are a couple ways I could explain it. So I'm actually going to try it in 2 ways, right? Go. So first off, if you've ever been in a family, you know that there are favorites that are unofficial, right? That's just a fucking thing that happens. Or in a small friend group, right? There are always people that like get along better or are chosen by other people and stuff like that. That's simply how this shit works. People pick favorite people. That's just how life works. And so when you're working with this giant mechanism of huge government, sure, there's going to be bureaucratic loss and corruption and stuff like that occurs. But the whole mechanisms of this entire machine are so difficult to sway via corruption that it's almost not worth it in a certain way. Not to say that like giant federal government shit is not corrupt, but when you're looking at something like state government, like I don't think there was a single mayor of a single town that is not so fucking corrupt. Like if you've ever met a mayor of a city, I used to go to they're actually not around anymore, so I can just talk about them, or they're under ownership that I don't care about anymore. But a buddy of mine, he owned an Italian restaurant out here called Veneto's. And it felt like that too, because he was skeevy. He was just this weird, creepy, skeevy guy, and I loved him. But you would go out there every Saturday night, and you would always see the mayor out there. He would always be there. And he could be doing all sorts of different things. I'm not going to make any comments on that. But when you would go out there, you knew that the mayor was being given all sorts of things by both the restaurateur and otherwise, because basic, simple human interactions allow for huge amounts of corruption, and huge amounts of corruption that you don't even regard as corruption. You don't regard it as corruption when your buddy gives you a gift, but he could be giving you a gift for any one of many reasons, right? And so that same thing applies to like smaller systems. And the other example that I wanted to give, because I've finally caught up on it, is I've been watching Succession. Have you guys seen that show?
I have not.
No.
It's actually very, very good. But one of the it teaches essentially the same lesson, where there's this huge series of corporate takeovers that are trying to happen, which we're supposed to not want to happen because we don't know those people, right? We don't empathize with them necessarily, but we know ultimately if you take a step back and breathe, that would be better, simply because some other mechanism is controlling things based purely on numbers. But when you're watching the show, and this is how shit actually works ultimately, there's a family that's arguing over shit constantly. There's very few people at the top rather than some massive mechanism. And so they're constantly doing stupid shit and fucking one another over. And it's just another example, if anyone has watched that show, of systems where when they're smaller, they're actually easier to make evil. Right. And I think that city and government works that same way.
No, I would agree with that, given my experience.
Yeah. So we shouldn't have them at all.
It's like here in Texas, we have a lot of unincorporated governments. Or
Southern California as well when you go east. Yeah.
Yeah, but like it's funny because like a lot of towns were founded like not as like libertarian utopias, but like as like close to one as like can be done in the state of Texas. Because like I think it only takes like 18 people to form a fucking, or it's a very small number here. Like your neighbors get together, like, you know, in a part of Texas where everybody has 50 acres of land or something, and they're not necessarily rich or anything. It's just they're out in the middle of fucking bumfuck, you know.
Yeah.
And they all get together and they form a town, and then they become extremely fucking corrupt and like led by these like cult-like figures that like get arrested for fucking embezzling money, and then they just have all these like police cars on loan. Like this one like a town of like 23 people had like 23 police cars.
Yeah.
And one cop, which was like a 68-year-old lady who was elected the sheriff or something.
Yeah. I actually have I have a thing about that, right? So back when I was in my early 20s, and this is, I'm not going to say anything that gets me canceled, so I can't say much, because I said a lot of N-word. No, I didn't. I didn't do it.
Sure, man.
But so.
So why did I bring it up?
my buddy ended up renting out a space in unincorporated East County. So if anyone is familiar with San Diego, around Valley Center, right? And what ended up happening with that is that we were able to throw parties out there that were just, they were debauched nightmares. And people were essentially able to camp on this 7-acre lot without anyone ever giving a shit about it. Like the neighbors weren't allowed to complain. Nothing was able to happen because it was totally unincorporated, and there just wasn't a convenient, easy way of making anything happen. And that's just one of my favorite little moments in my own history. It's very good. That's my thing. That's my whole thing.
That's your thing.
No government is good. It's nice.
Yeah. Let's go to the next link. So another problem that we ran into a bunch with the city was there was a bunch of money that was loosed for the COVID-19. Well, there was the CARES Act, and then there was the Relief Act, and this went to a bunch of local municipalities. What ended up happening is all of these local municipalities were kind of afraid to spend the money unless you were working for like a larger, let's say like San Diego proper. I didn't work for the city of San Diego, but the actual city of San Diego didn't have any trouble spending this money because not only did they have a very large infrastructure of people who could, handle this extra reporting that was required for any COVID spending, but also they just knew that they were too big to fail. So one of the issues that my city ran into was we didn't want to stick our neck out, and I think that, my city was more conservative than a lot of other cities around here, I think. But there was this general sentiment that you didn't want to stick your neck out and find out the hard way that you had spent this money wrong, because there were headlines saying there's not a whole lot of restrictions on this, but there were actually some. What the problem was is that there weren't a whole lot of restrictions. There were a few very pointed restrictions that nobody could really figure out, like, does this fall into the right category sort of stuff. So nobody wanted to stick their neck out. And what ended up happening is a lot of that COVID-19 funding, as this AP article states, states and cities were slow to spend federal pandemic money. I don't think there's too much that we need to get into in this article. I just wanted it for the headline, I think. So let's go to the next one.
Also, quick question about that, actually, about the slow to spend, or the pandemic money in general. I actually haven't looked into this, and I feel bad about it, but was this offered on a system of, hey, it's up for grabs, who wants it kind of thing, which it often is, or was it?
It was apportioned.
Okay.
But cities had the right to reject it, basically.
Well, that sounds like the same thing with extra steps, kind of.
It is.
Okay.
And I'm actually that's a little bit further down the line.
Okay. And but yeah, just to be clear for people, and maybe we will be just retreading this, but a lot of the time, and this happens with school districts a lot. But when I'm talking about a race to capture kind of thing, I'm kind of what I'm talking about. It isn't so much that they just say, hey, free money, who wants it? What ends up happening, which is why it's a really bad thing on the ballot most of the time, is that they say this money is available now. Anyone with the resources to have a shit ton of people apply to it can have it.
Yep.
Right. Versus, hey, this money is up for grabs and you just need to send us a message, which of course isn't how government works.
Yeah.
But just to keep that clear for everyone, because I feel like people are really optimistic about this sometimes, and they're just like, oh, money for school districts, like we'll just have like the principal will reach out and get $1 million. Like, no. You need to have like a fucking team. So it's always the rich districts getting the money.
We'll actually get into that a little
bit
great. Later on.
Then I'll shut the fuck up.
If you could zoom into this article and then go to like the second bolded section, so I can. So the paragraph above. Oh, sorry, go up a little bit. I told you to go down a little bit too far. So the three major rules that were applied to the COVID-19 money were necessary expenses tied to the public health emergency with respect to COVID-19. What does that mean? Because necessary expenses for my city in response to COVID-19 were actually fairly low. We put up plexiglass barricades. Plexiglass is fairly cheap.
Which, again, reminder that I think is really fun. They didn't want to put up those barricades when you first suggested them.
Yeah, I'll tell.
It would be scary.
I'll
would be
tell that
scary.
story.
Yeah, sorry, I had to call it out. Yeah.
I have experience working in the pharmaceutical world, so I understand how contamination works pretty well. I worked for a pharmaceutical company for 2.5 years, working specifically in their clean rooms, doing facilities maintenance jobs in clean rooms. Obviously, as part of my job, I had to learn how contamination works so that I could help build and implement the systems that we had in the clean rooms to prevent contamination. This includes simple measures like pass-through windows from what would not be clean areas, cleaner than usual because it's a pharmaceutical building regardless. But going from something that's not ISO rated to something that is ISO rated, and I forget what ISO means, but basically there's different levels of ISO. It's ISO. Somebody can look it up probably if they really care. But the clean rooms that I was working in were ISO 7 and ISO 8, so pretty high up there. And it relates to like how many particles are allowed in the air. Particles and like what type of materials you're allowed to use. This was like 7 years ago now, so I've forgotten some of it. But I had experience in the pharmaceutical world, and so when the reports were coming out in early 2020 that hey, we've got this airborne disease that's spreading like crazy, it's coming to your town next. Get ready for it in whatever way you can. This is like just a week or two before all the lockdowns started getting issued. I, as the facilities maintenance supervisor for the city, raised my hand during one of the big like meetings that we were having and how we were going to handle this. And I said, hey, look, I understand you guys want to keep the city open for as long as possible. If we're going to do that, a good safety precaution that we could take is just building some simple pass-through windows. Basically, just have a sheet of plexiglass in front of somebody with a space underneath that they can pass stuff back and forth through. Plans, documents, whatever.
In addition to that, I believe, if I'm recalling correctly, which I do believe I am, you also mentioned that there should be like spacers placed when people are walking through things like lines.
Yeah, no. I also said that we should have like, just like basic like distance,
like a cord.
Yeah.
Yeah. So literally all of the things that ultimately we ended up getting information from like higher up, like you were saying, because it's common fucking sense, and also you have experience with this.
Yeah, it was just,
you were fucking saying it, and then the response was,
yeah. So I had this experience, and I related why I was saying this is what we needed to do based off of, hey, I used to work in pharma, and I know that these are like general good protocols that we can implement to just limit contamination. And what I was told was that it would scare people, and we didn't want to scare people. This was in
awesome.
late February of 2020. I was told that doing this kind of thing would scare people, and now we've gone through almost 2 years of COVID now.
Yeah.
So
very cool.
One of those black pill moments where I was like, oh my god, I'm living in the movie where everybody's retarded.
It would be weird also if any one of those people was doing it for money, because smaller groups are more corrupt.
That is true.
That would be weird, right? That would be crazy.
Yeah, no, there was a general sentiment that we wanted to maintain appearances for as long as possible.
Yeah.
And then it was funny because, like end of March, so 2 weeks after lockdowns have started getting like passed all over the country, the people who shut me down don't reach out to me. My manager at the time reaches out to me and says, hey, so that idea you had about the pass-through window, City Hall would like to see it implemented at a couple of our counters just to get a feel for how it would look and work. Like, okay, cool. And at that time, everybody had already started installing plexiglass at all their counters, so I had to like wait
Of course.
a week and a half to like get my hands on plexiglass. It was really cool. It was a great moment. But anyways, that's just patting myself on the back, which
Good
I don't
job.
know why we did that.
I thought it was funny.
It is funny. It is a funny story in hindsight. Funny in like a haha. Oh man, I don't know
Everything
what
is
the impact
terrible.
of that was.
Right.
So necessary expenses tied to the public health emergency with respect to COVID-19. Very low impact as far as expenses related to COVID-19 are considered because you put up a couple of plexiglass windows here and there, you put up some hand sanitizer dispensers here and there. Really actually doesn't cost a whole lot more than a couple $1,000 depending on the size of the city and how many public counters you have available.
A sheet of plexiglass can be like $30.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it was amazing. Even though like everything was bought out, the second it became available, it was still like, oh, this is still dirt cheap.
Right.
Expenses that were not accounted for in the state or local government's budget that was approved as of March 27, 2020, and expenses that are incurred between March 1, 2020 and December 30th, 2020. This particular article, it's an analysis of government spending during COVID with the relief funds. Notes, it is unclear why the deadline for spending CRF funds was set as December 30, 2020. This limit makes little sense given that the pandemic is ongoing, with second and third waves of spiking cases occurring. Moreover, as we highlight in this report, changing guidelines from the Treasury Department have led to confusion and spending delays. So this is an analysis of everything that I've just talked about. If you want to look into it yourself, let's go ahead and scroll to the top.
So I actually wonder if like talking about like the hidden expenses of accepting money, like your community health hospital, right?
Yeah.
So they turn all of their patient rooms into deep back pressure rooms.
Yeah. No, which is hugely expensive too.
Oh yeah, and so that's super expensive, right? But then like hospitals have to so they add more like gear and equipment and things like that, and so they have to by law have like backup generators on the roof and stuff that support a certain amount of watts. So if their system becomes unbalanced, now they have to redo a generator system that's on the roof of an 8-story building or something like that. Like I wonder how much of that happened, like now that these hospitals that added all this equipment now are incurring this like giant expense that might not be covered by this.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. And it's also worth noting that most hospitals, you may have a hospital that says San Diego Hospital. That doesn't mean that it's run by the city of San Diego. A lot of times these are private hospitals. Other times, they're private hospitals that receive some government subsidies so that they can take in anyone. The city budget and the hospital budget are not connected. I can tell you how I know that. My city has a hospital. Our hospital doesn't appear on any of our city budget stuff. The police do. Thank goodness for that.
Right.
It was really fun to see my budget as somebody who maintains infrastructure cut by 50% during the year 2020, and see the cops receive no cut, and actually they receive more money than they did the year previously.
And in terms of all that with first responders and everything, again, reminder that things like paramedic companies, ambulance companies are private as well.
Yeah. It's very few states or counties that have a government version of paramedics.
Yeah.
Or EMTs.
Which is why it costs you so fucking much to get picked up.
Yeah.
Oh, private industry. No, not private industry.
Even though it costs you $12,000 for a ride to a hospital, that private sector EMT probably only made like $15 an hour.
Yep. And still didn't get a break. Yeah.
Yeah, and still didn't get a break.
It's pretty fucking disgusting.
Yeah, he smelled like piss because his diaper was full of piss.
So
you had to borrow it from the Amazon guy. Yeah.
This article, this article, if you want to look it up, is from the University of Illinois Chicago, and the headline is "Slow to Spend? ? State approaches to allocating federal coronavirus relief." It goes into a lot of reasons why, and I've basically already given you a bunch of reasons why cities were slow to spend. This is more on the state level, but it still applies to a lot of the city level because most cities are kind of under state guidance anyway. Go ahead and go to the next guru there. See what happened as a result. So a lot of money wasn't spent, and the reason that I know that this isn't a local issue to just my city is because it was so endemic to COVID-19 relief funds that Biden at one point said, and also allowed this per his order, said that cities should spend leftover COVID funds on hiring cops. So there was enough money left over that he felt it necessary to give this additional guidance that, like, hey, yeah, we know that we gave you this money for, or hey, Jack, we know we gave you this money for COVID, but if you want to spend it on some police, go ahead. we gotta lock up Corn Pop, etc. So that's,
also, damn, dude, the New York Post, their website looks like
it
looks like a
garbage.
porn site.
Like this is the first link that came up when I googled this, and I just wanted something to like validate that I'm not just like making up all this shit. There was so much money left over that Biden, and it was like almost $100 billion or more dollars, I think, going off of memory, that was just like sitting around in all these city funds, state funds. And Biden was like, hey, why don't you spend it on the fucking cops? Get some more cops, because we got crime. You got to get the crime out of there. And the way you get crime out of there is with cops that shoot them in the legs instead of the chest. Go to the next one.
So we can hear them better as they die in the streets.
So this article is about a lot of reasons why smaller municipalities weren't accepting the COVID money. A lot of them didn't accept it because, weirdly enough, rural communities didn't really suffer a whole lot under COVID.
Less people means more corruption, but less virus being passed around.
Yeah, less virus being passed around is where I'm going with that.
Yeah.
And also, technically kind of less corruption to a certain extent because there's less money to play around with.
Less people to get paid off the same amount.
Yeah. there's probably a sweet spot of like where something should be at to avoid corruption.
There you go. Taking the middle path like always.
Yeah, well, I'm a radical
coward. Centrist Benzo Deebs.
Yeah. But one important thing that I think needs to be highlighted here, and I've actually got it linked to the highlight, following federal rules, many small towns won't be able to track their spending and report it to the U.S. Treasury without help. So a lot of this money was given to like, hey, if you have, COVID-related losses of revenue, whatever, here's this money. But then, like I said, a lot of cities were a little bit reluctant to spend it because they didn't know, when audit time came around, they didn't want to be the person that found out the hard way that, hey, we spent, $3 million on things that are no longer going to be covered by, this relief fund. And now we have to reimburse the federal government $3 million that we don't have apportioned in our budget. So that was why a lot of small towns were just like, no, we don't want it. A lot of small towns also didn't really suffer the same way that bigger cities did. But there was a huge concern that, you're providing us this money, but you're not giving us the people to like oversee it, track it, report it, etc. And this kind of also ties back into what I was talking about with prevailing wage, and that like, yeah, it's nice that you're trying to give all these workers prevailing wage money, but if you aren't going to also provide, the contractor with the, funds to have this extra person on hand that they need to report all this stuff, then you haven't helped them at all. There's somebody incredibly drunk yelling. I hope that doesn't come up on the recording.
I don't hear anything.
I'm on the second floor, so they got to climb to get to me.
They're trying to stop you.
Yeah. Why are you lying about COVID-19?
It's the people from the city.
Yeah, no, they finally come for me, boys. So let's go to the last link. I forget what the last link is, but I'm sure it's important. Oh yeah, so go ahead and scroll down to that pie down there. So this is they and Brookings is a think tank, but this is solid data. This is how much how much COVID-19 relief was spent as of I can't see the date. It's fairly recent though. But basically 81.9% of COVID relief funds were not spent. And that's why there was so much left over for things like hiring more cops.
Yeah.
And you might recognize that out of 100%, 81.9% is 82 100ths of how much money there is. So that's a pretty big fraction there, I guess.
Nice.
And so that's my basic overview of why the government is fucked up and failing right now on the local level. To pick this back up for everybody who hasn't fallen asleep, we are going to pivot into conservatives living in clown world.
The best world.
So let's go ahead and pop into that next link. This is the gentleman known as Dennis Prager comparing the unvaccinated to being treated worse than
what the fuck?
Yeah.
You gotta let me finish talking before you react, man.
Oh, Jesus.
So let's go ahead.
For the listener, please finish.
Yes.
Yeah, so this is Dennis Prager saying that the unvaccinated are being treated worse than people during the AIDS crisis were treated.
What the fuck?
Yeah, specifically gay men and intravenous drug users.
Yeah, so the quote on this tweet is Dennis Prager. During the AIDS crisis, can you imagine if gay men and intravenous drug users had they been pariahs the way the non-vaccinated are? But it would have been inconceivable.
Ronald Reagan famously took gay men and put them above everyone else during the AIDS crisis. He was like, this is a real thing. We care about it. These people need to be saved.
We've got to study it. Get doctors the proper PPE.
I remember growing up, and I grew up in a very conservative household. I remember growing up and being told that, like, gay people were inherently dirty. You couldn't trust them. They couldn't touch you. Like, I had a gay friend growing up, and I remember my parents taking me aside and saying, like, hey, he might have AIDS, just so you know.
Amazing.
So go ahead and just roll the clip because it's it's Dennis Prager. What are you gonna do?
So what she found funny was that
did you turn it up?
She doesn't have a magic wand, but somebody in her party has a magic wand. The reason we're paying so much is because the magic wand of the Democratic president was to destroy the energy independence of the United States of America. With one magic wand, the man ruined our economy, ruined the ability of the lower and middle class to pay their energy bills. As in Germany, by the way, this is not just unique to the United States. Anywhere that you have people who are governed by fear of global warming, an idiotic, irrational, sick fear of extinction of the biosphere. I mean, do you understand the nonsense that we live with, if we survive this as a free country, historians will just ask, how did this happen? How did people get governed by irrational fears? Whether it is of the non-vaccinated who are the pariahs of America, as I have not seen in my lifetime any pariah group like this. During the AIDS crisis, can you imagine if
how old is Dennis Prager?
Old enough to know better.
Too old, not old enough. Both.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Old enough to be alive, not old enough to be dead.
I mean, like how old do you have to be to know that certain parts of this country murdered people publicly, like, and took like, photographs of it?
Yeah. Not very old at all. I know that. And
5-year-old on TikTok.
But never in my life has he seen people have to wear face underwear, basically.
Yeah. Never.
Fucking for hygiene purposes. I mean, because that's why I can't sit naked on a park bench, right?
Well, there's a couple of reasons. Most of them are horny. If
well, like San Francisco, they used to allow it used to be a clothing optional city, but you had to put a towel down when you sat on public infrastructure for hygiene purposes.
And now they've got spikes in all the public infrastructure, so you can just sit wherever you want, if you know what I mean.
I was hoping you'd make that joke.
Continue playing it. I think it's almost
gay
over.
men and intravenous drug users who were the vast majority of people with AIDS.
Can we go back 30 seconds, 20 seconds even?
Yeah.
I feel like the real impact of this.
More, John. A little bit more.
There you go.
I have not seen in my lifetime
Perfect.
any pariah group like this. During the AIDS crisis, can you imagine if gay men and intravenous drug users, who were the vast majority of people with AIDS, had they been pariahs the way the non-vaccinated are? But it would have been inconceivable, and it should have been inconceivable. They should not have been made pariahs. But this is kosher. This is okay. You can make the non-vaccinated. So it's a different America.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Incredible.
And he kind of like trips over his own shit though, because he ends up saying, and they shouldn't have been. They should not have been made pariahs.
Oh no, he just does that. Dennis Prager, that's his pattern where he says, "Now I don't care for those black folk, though perhaps black folk are great."
No, that is, but it's just funny how like he can't even like maintain that facade that he's trying to maintain.
Yeah, some of them I assume are good people. You know?
Some of them I assume. Go to the next link, please. Scroll down to the video portion.
Daily Mail is worse than New York Post, man.
Yeah,
holy shit.
It's hard to find good quality links these days, man.
No, I mean they're fine links, but holy shit, their websites are managed like it looks like Las Vegas.
So this is Axios committing like journalistic fraud to some extent.
That man's face is stuck in a wind tunnel.
Yeah, no, he is an incredibly difficult person to look at and listen to.
He's like a Joker reject. Yeah.
Well, he's a real Harvey Dent kind of guy, if you ask.
You know how I got these funds? My
new joke with my partner, by the way, and she loves it. So I will continually like troll her about something for like an entire day. Very healthy relationship.
Yeah,
love each other very much. And then at the end of the day, she will accuse me of having trolled her all day about something, and then I'll say, no, it's not a troll, it's a joke. I'm a jokey kind of guy. I'm a person who jokes. Some would say that I'm a joker. and she gets upset at me because she doesn't want me to keep identifying with the Joker. Anyways, all that aside,
I do the same thing with my girlfriend.
Yeah. Wait, you have a girlfriend now?
Let's move on.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, big reveal.
The beautiful, beautiful palm. I used to slap myself.
Yeah. Speaking of beautiful palms, Josh Hawley wants to take away your porn. Let's watch this.
Oh, wait, this guy's gonna tell us about masculinity.
Yeah, he's gonna become the president.
Oh,
yeah, he's gonna tell us a couple of things, and none of them really actually make sense. So go.
Which, by the way, the first time I heard this clip, I was playing Dark Souls immediately after jerking off.
Hell yeah.
Oh shit.
So just so everyone knows, imagine that as you listen to his voice.
Without washing too.
Yeah, I think every
washes after.
I think every time somebody plays Dark Souls after jerking off, that Josh Hawley gets another tooth.
He should have like billions of teeth now. He's like a shark. He's just got rows and rows of them.
He does.
Yeah, I imagine they're just going to be falling out and replacing themselves like as we watch this video.
Yeah, the Roma curse that he has causes teeth to fall out of his mouth every morning. Just replace himself.
All right, please play this.
Senator, you gave a pretty hot speech at the National Conservatism Conference in Orlando. You talked about the left's attack on men of America.
Yeah.
Why masculinity as your new big issue?
Well, I think what the left is doing is attacking America. They're saying that America is systemically oppressive and men are systemically responsible.
What's a man to you? Paint a picture.
What's a man? Well, a man is a father, a man is a husband, a man is somebody
Weird
who takes
follow-up.
responsibility. As conservatives,
Yeah, can we pause
we've got to
it?
call men back to responsibility.
So the
This guy
question
does
there
weird
is,
follow-ups.
yeah, this guy has weird follow-ups, and the reason that he has weird follow-ups is because this is a scripted interview, if we're being honest.
Yeah.
There's no way that this interview is anything investigative, is anything genuine. This is not a person sitting across from Josh Hawley trying to interrogate his belief system. This is somebody who is there paid to give him the right questions so that he can enforce his belief system.
Yeah, like this is something that it belongs on a TV show. Genuinely,
It does.
Like it's not.
It does.
Not a conversation.
Senator, you gave a hot speech.
Right.
That is a weird way to introduce that. I would start off with, Senator, you're deranged. What the fuck are you talking about?
Senator, you gave a hot 8-bit speech.
Yeah, and so he immediately goes to, the left is attacking blah 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 blah, and instead of saying, well, how is it doing that?
Yeah. What do you mean? Why are you looking at me like that? Please
Right.
stop touching me. What's a man?
he just feeds him a question that Josh Hawley can fucking like play off of to further his point, and you're gonna find over the course of this interview segment, and there's a longer segment out there, but this is just kind of like the highlight reel of it. But you'll find that like there's really no like genuine question being asked ever. It's always the wrong question that's being asked, and I think there's a reason for that. But continue playing it.
Responsibility. We've got to say that spending your time not working, and we have more and more men who are not working, spending your time on video games, spending your time watching porn online while doing nothing is not good for you, your family, or this country.
So a viewer's watching this and they're thinking, really? What the liberals are doing are going to push me to watch Pornhub more or play Donkey Kong more? Do you mean that?
Pause it, please.
Well, what I mean literally is...
What the fuck is going on?
Like I said, this
know.
is journalistic like malpractice.
Yeah. I know that it's common knowledge. There's not a single person in the world that doesn't know about Pornhub. But citing that, using that in your question is such a funny fucking move, where it's just like, hey, all right, so you're saying a man is a responsible man who works, because not a lot of men are working right now. Well, you know what? Why is it that you think that people are on like footfetishanimeporn.com?
Why do you think so many men are on OnlyFeed?
Yeah. I was on Fapster the other night,
And
which,
also,
if that's not a thing, that needs to be a thing.
I'm
Fapster,
positive it's a thing.
Yeah.
it needs to be a thing.
It's a thing. We
It's a
don't even need to look it up, John.
John, look it up. Look up Fapster.com.
I would like to remind you who the actual boss is here.
And it's the anchor lady who works upstairs.
We have bosses now.
We don't have bosses.
Uh-oh. It's consolidating the power.
Come on, man. Don't be like this. Don't be like this right now.
Let's finish up with dear sweet Mr. Holly's.
No. There is something
homilies.
that I would like to to piggyback off of what you were saying, where he brings up we got men just sitting around beating off playing video games, and then later on he's going to admit that part of it is because there's not as many jobs as there used to be.
Yeah.
But his solution isn't necessarily that, like we're going to somehow create more jobs. His solution is, hey, you're bad for you not being able to get work because there's not as much work anymore, and you need to not watch porn and beat off to video games. And I know I said that wrong. I did
Yeah,
but
my jerking off 5 times a day gets in the way of my 50 to 60 hour work week.
Right.
It does. It
also,
does.
let's just point out, and I understand kind of why and everything, but it is still kind of weird to me that a man like this is pointing out, these men who are taking part in a largely extremely misogynistic sexual impulse while also going ahead and
watching porn
and going ahead and performing like synthesized like hypermasculine violence. These are the least manly men. Like, yeah.
Well, he'll define what a man needs to do. Go ahead.
A man go work.
That I think the liberal attack, the left-wing attack on manhood says to men, you're part of the problem. It says that your masculinity is inherently problematic. It's inherently oppressive.
What's your basis for linking that to what liberals...
So for the listener, they keep showing these weird shots of I already forgot his name, of Hallie's fucking hands.
Yep.
Like, I guess they're like trying to show that he's masculine by showing zoomed in shots of his hands or something.
They're trying to show that he doesn't have hair growing on his palms.
Oh, that's what it is.
Because he doesn't beat off.
He's never done it. He's a no-fap. You can tell because he is extremely masculine.
Oh yeah, just brimming with testosterone and teeth.
Yeah. You see, if you took a picture of Ellen DeGeneres and him, I could tell the difference.
Continue, please.
Or the left, as you would say, do. Is that based on data or based on a hunch?
Well, it's policy over many years. I mean, if you look at the policy of deindustrialization, those are policy choices Mike pursued over many years.
Wait, how does that connect to porn?
Oh, well, you've got men, 16 million men, Mike, who are idle, who don't have anything to do. Now, partly that's their own responsibility, but also partly it's because jobs have dried up in many cities across America and rural areas too. I think you put together lack of jobs, you put together fatherlessness, you put together the social messages that we teach our kids in school. I think we've got to confront that and its effects.
What social messages in school other than
he doesn't need to define it. All right, what he's doing is he's saying the things that'll get a certain amount of people riled up.
Yeah,
remember when men used to be men?
Remember when in social studies class they didn't tell you to jerk off to God of War?
Yeah. It's like I do remember that in AP literature, we did cover the fucking sex scenes in God of War and the best way to masturbate to them.
Yeah. AP Gov, it was always about how to press X as quickly as you can, which of course masturbation is the only kind of like exercise you can do.
Some kids learn how to press X real fast in God of War. I learned how to press X real fast to resist torture in Metal Gear Solid.
Metal Gear Solid. But it was you were pressing circle for that. Thank you.
I don't remember.
I remember it because I
Wait,
did it
way to
over and over
fact
again.
check me on a fucking ancient game.
Because I was bad at it, and then I realized, hold on, you don't need to press with your thumb. You can do this.
That's how you do it. You just fucking
Exactly.
get in there.
So I just want everyone to know that I was a very intelligent young
Great, glad to hear
man.
it. Let's go to the next link. This is Tulsi Gabbard, who was for some reason like a weird darling of like leftists who don't know what they're talking about for a while.
Yeah.
She's basically given up on it. Can we go to the caption that she has here at the top? With no evidence, mainstream media and Antifa-loving politicians. Name one Antifa-loving politician, please. Immediately labeled Rittenhouse as a white supremacist terrorist. It's obvious now that he was just a foolish kid. Is that how we're doing it? Is that how we're just... When you go to another state to try to shoot people who are protesting police violence, it's just a foolish kid now? Who felt he needed to protect people and the community from rioters and arsonists because the government failed to do so. There was so much goddamn police presence there. Tell me where.
Oh, yeah. They had FBI.
Yeah, they had FBI fucking planes.
Pictures of this.
Well, I mean, to be fair to Rittenhouse and Tulsi Gabbard, it seems like the police mostly fucking cracked down on people who weren't actually rioting.
Right.
Oh, well, yeah, they wouldn't have any reason to do that, would they? To just let, like, property destruction happen so it looks bad, and then, like, the people who aren't committing property destruction, and who fucking cares about property destruction? I'm just gonna throw that out right now. Yeah. I don't give a shit. Burn down all the fucking buildings until there's some justice.
Yeah, so that they could go play duck hunt with their fucking rubber grenades and shit like that.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and play Tulsi's little fucking speech, because now she's I don't know, she's given up the game of trying to be any kind of progressive, and now she's just doing the right wing dog whistle shit.
Ah, so she's a mocha Candace Owens.
Candace Owens is mocha Candace Owens.
Oh, that's right.
That's
so
that's racist against Tulsi as maybe
mocha's our word.
Hawaiian person.
Yeah, that's fair. Sorry, I shouldn't use it.
Please,
we're taking it back.
The prosecutor in this Rittenhouse trial obviously did not do his due diligence before making the decision to prosecute. This tragedy never would have happened if the government had simply carried out its responsibilities to protect the safety, lives, and property of innocent people. The prosecutor in this Rittenhouse...
Pause right there. It's actually been ruled several times in the Supreme Court that the police have like no duty or responsibility to protect people.
Yeah, that's true. They don't.
So she's talking about this weird like responsibility of the government in a way that's like, hey, they should have done more tear gas and more riot control and more oppression, and that's why Kyle Rittenhouse wasn't needed there.
Yeah. Imagine how cool it would be. I mean, not to call her inconsistent or anything, but what if there was some kind of like great military and vigilante presence in like India, which then led to some kind of like mass execution or genocide?
You know, it's interesting that you mentioned India.
What?
As John has scrolled down.
Is there something going on with India and Tulsi Gabbard and fascism? Is there a thing?
Literally somebody from India with an Indian flag profile picture and banner picture saying Tulsi 2024. Yeah, interesting.
Camo pants also. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, surprised that someone who has like fascist sympathies towards like another
loves
country
Modi.
Feels them.
Great.
Yeah, feels them towards our own. You know, weird. That's unimaginable.
Let's go to the next link instead of dwelling on the weird Indian Tulsi pipeline. This is Ben Shapiro, a tweet. Let me put on my Ben Shapiro voice real quick. It will go down in history as a bewildering and befuddling act of mind-numbing idiocy that Joe Biden abandoned his moderate pitch as a winning candidate in favor of wild progressive leftism as a president.
You forgot to sound out of breath at the very end of the sentence.
Oh, well, I guess I have bigger lungs. I don't know. Does
You've
anybody actually believe that Joe Biden is a wild leftist progressive president? I mean,
don't.
like, there's people who are claiming they believe that, but
Right. Amazing.
I've never gotten anybody to like explain it to me.
exactly.
Well, he's doing a communism.
He wants the roads to be good, and he doesn't actually want the roads to be good, of course, but like challenge anybody
He's
who
trying
thinks
to replace my lead pipes.
try
I need those for the
to
white children.
try to get anybody in your life that thinks Joe Biden is a radical leftist to explain how he's a radical leftist. That's your challenge. Please send any results to BenzoRehabQuestions at gmail.com.
I got a family dinner tomorrow, so
Yeah.
Secretly record
Ask,
your family.
ask some folks. Yes. Don't ask for consent. Just ask them.
yeah.
So we'll finish this up with some Dave Rubin clips. Again, we had a very dry first half. Well, I mean, we had the Clifford bit, but yeah, we're gonna finish this on a fun, happy note. So this is Dave Rubin trying to talk about Bitcoin.
Who the fuck is on the screen right now? It looks
That's
like
not
a sick version of me.
not Dave Rubin, but yes, it is you with cancer.
I have never sold a Bitcoin and I have never bought a Bitcoin, but as I say,
Oh, interesting. So all of the Bitcoin you have is from donations or being paid for services?
yeah. Oh, yes. So all of it's from donations except for one thing. I did do one promotion on the show, I believe, for one Bitcoin, which maybe at the time was around 18 grand or so.
There's some kind of attempt to avoid taxes.
So
sorry. That's
Definitely.
Oh.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just tax avoidance.
So what has changed for you since you first learned about it? How do you think about it now as opposed to then?
Well, now I think, like most people, I can really, really see the value. You know, at the beginning, it was just like, there's this cool thing, and it makes you think about the coins that, you know, Mario was collecting in Super Mario Brothers.
What the fuck?
Right?
What's
Who says
happening?
Mario? Who says Mario?
Yeah, that's the weird thing about that.
Oh yeah, and also
Wait.
Bitcoin is like the coins you collect in the video game Mario Brothers.
Does Dave Rubin really believe those fucking like urban legends about like phone apps, like you being used to like have your kids mine Bitcoin for the developer and shit?
Probably, definitely.
Yeah,
I don't know. And on top of that, he's
currently
for
trying
it.
to design that app.
Yeah.
And he's for it, yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't just believe in it. He's like, oh yeah, that sounds like a good idea, actually.
We'll
please
make our
continue.
currency out of Mario games.
There's an, maybe you can buy things online or subscribe to things. Like, it was just sort of this like weird, you know, it was like we were all learning about the internet at once. You know, it's hard to imagine the world without the internet, but the internet in a social media sense, we've only had it for barely 20 years. I mean, 20 years ago,
Since the 80s. What's happening?
Oh, they sped it up because he just rambles on and on. So continue.
20 years of internet since 2000? What the fuck is he talking about?
Yeah, no, he's a fucking idiot, obviously. I grew up with the internet, and I was born in 88, so...
Yeah, he's probably afraid that we'll get brain cancer from listening to fucking Dave Rubin for too long.
I
talk
think
about
that is what's happening here.
Yeah, we're being this is the good kind of censorship.
We're just gonna get faster.
Acceleration is Dave Rubin right now.
Something else. So now I see Bitcoin as completely integral to building a new parallel economy. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I'm a Bitcoin expert, but you know, I've been on Anthony Pompliano's podcast talking about Bitcoin. I'm pretty well versed in most of the libertarian ideas and the general idea of decentralization, just that the big monster, the big machine can't come in and just knock you out, just take all your money, empty your wallet.
I mean, they could,
Amazing.
couldn't they? Couldn't they just destroy?
Yeah, I
the
mean,
servers?
the only worth that Bitcoin has is actually transferable to U.S. dollars. So,
Yeah.
let's go to the next Dave Rubin clip, and we've got 2 more clips, and then you opened the same link twice. I was thinking I only had 2 Dave Rubin clips, but yeah.
Oh.
And look at that face. But also, by the way, really quickly, that last clip, that the other guy, I know I've already made fun of his looks, and I shouldn't, but it is incredible to believe that someone, especially someone that looks like me, could have a larger forehead than I do.
Yeah, no, he had like side head too.
Yeah. Side, incredible. What a
yeah. He had like 3 foreheads. You know,
we need to do phrenology on that guy.
I was just gonna say, I feel like we're doing some kind of phrenology here. We need to measure this gentleman's skull and figure out why he's so dumb.
Man, that guy is white double plus.
So let's go ahead and play this last wonderful clip from Dave Rubin, and then we'll end the show there.
Discuss his phrenology.
Would you be living right by the water? You know, we just came back from Miami, and in Miami, you've got all of these, literally these 30, 40, 50, $70 million houses all on the water, right? And they're telling us the sea level's rising. Yet why are all the rich people still moving to the water? Are they stupid?
Yes.
Yeah.
Or could it possibly be?
And so somebody who can afford fucking waterfront property probably has other properties.
Yeah, they've got expendable wealth, so they can afford to buy a property that they know may, like, I don't know, in a decade be underwater.
Right. Oh no, my 3rd house might get fucking sucked up by the ocean in 20 years.
Guess I'll live in the other 2.
Better sell it to Ben Shapiro.
As he won't believe that fucking the sea levels have risen since he drowns in his new house.
It's amazing because Ben Shapiro already made this argument and he became a meme over it, right?
Yeah,
where it's like people will just sell their homes. And Rubin. So I am admittedly someone that maybe gives like more credit to these people than they deserve a lot of the time, where I'm like, oh, these people are just grifters, right? Yeah. And Rubin is a grifter.
Yeah,
he is a grifter, but he is also
he's also stupid.
Yeah.
Rubin is a grifter, but he is also one of the dumbest people on planet Earth.
Incredible, dude. Yeah.
Let's finish this up.
That all of this is really about control, and they're trying to usher in a whole bunch of policies that will enshrine that they always kind of stay in power, and you eat bugs.
What the fuck?
Would you be living
that
right
expression
by the
he gave too is like, these things are about control.
It's about control, actually.
Control.
Well,
that's the sexy face he gives to his husband.
That is undoubtedly the. It's Wednesday night, and Wednesday nights when we bang, right? That's that face.
Tuesday and Thursday nights at 6:30 p.m. For 4.5 minutes.
Cool. Well, we have some news.
Okay.
The first bit of news is my intent is to make the next show live. It'll be at 7:30 PST. I'll make a post about it. You can figure out where your time zone is relative to PST. Making it live is going to be more fun, I think. We'll open up the ability for people to comment in real time. And then also it's going to cut down on things like, as I'm recording this right now, it gets saved to a file. I have to compile the file. I have to, render the file, and then I have to upload it, and the upload time, like, rather than going through the whole upload of, a 1.5 gigabyte file, it would be easier for me to just, have it stream to YouTube. And then I'll still capture the audio only. The audio only I can't make live at this point because I don't have the right setup, and also, I would need different subscriptions and stuff like that. But uploading the audio file, we're talking about like a 50 megabyte file that just like immediately uploads. So want to make the next episode live. I will figure out a way that we can have the chat live interact with the stream that John has up. So that's the big announcement, is taking this live.
And think about all the features that come with that. You get to watch us take a break to go to the bathroom. You get to have me yell at you. You get to call us names while we get things wrong on purpose. You get to continue to take our misinformation and twist it into something more and more perverse. And you get to yell at us for making impressions in ways that you don't like.
Yeah. So,
and how long until we call a listener / viewer the R word?
It's already
not
been
long.
Done. I've already got some listeners in mind. No, I'm just kidding. We love all of you.
Please take your medicine. Please take mine too.
So yeah, that's the big announcement. We're not doing sign-offs yet. That's the big news.
Sorry, I heard the words.
the next show will be live. I will put out a post about that. Obviously, it'll be live on YouTube only. Twitch is having some issues right now. They got hacked not too long ago, and so I lost like my streaming code, and I haven't figured out how to get it back.
They also won't let us say the R word.
Yeah, they also deleted all of our videos on Twitch. So
our videos were on Twitch?
Well, like the gaming live streams and stuff.
It's definitely because of something we said.
Yeah, well, I got reported
Which
on
is
Facebook.
So sensitive.
When John and I played The Forest together, I had put in the description that we were finding ways to die in the woods. And that got reported as a suicide threat. And so everything was pulled off of Facebook, and I think everything was pulled off of Twitch as well. And then Twitch got hacked around the same time, so we like lost everything that was on Twitch. And I just really don't fucking care to like play the game to get everything back on Twitch and to like stream on Twitch as well.
Mike. But if we don't go up on Twitch, how will we become best friends with Hassan?
I don't think that's possible.
Which is something that all of us want desperately. Thank you. Hold on.
Okay.
Because Hassan is no, that's all I have to say. We need to become friends with him.
Very special.
And everyone should send him messages right now saying, "Hey, Hassan, please become friends with our boys. They don't think you're a shithead. They don't think you're a fucking weirdo loser, and they respect all the decisions you make. Buy another $3 billion house."
Yes. Okay. Cool.
I know it wasn't $3 billion.
We're all on the same page there. We have a Discord as well now. It'll be in the link tree under the thing that says Discord. Pretty easy to find that.
And if you're in the workshop, you get access to a super secret forum on the Discord.
Yes, we're not trying to create a caste system, but there are two kind of different communities involved in this. I've brought in a lot of weirdo goons. You've brought in a lot of theorygram folks.
Just like Tulsi Gabbard, we are in fact trying to make a caste system.
I already love the Discord and
there's a lot of Discord there.
Our viewership, because I already see suicide memes.
Great.
It didn't take long.
It's wonderful.
It's a bad place. You should join us.
It's not a great time. Come into it with us. So yeah, aside from that, if you would like to support this broadcast, again, we'll always be free, we'll always be publicly available. But if you would like to support this, patreon.com/BenzoRehabDungeon, and Danko, over to you.
Same thing as usual. Check out the workshop we have every Saturday at 11 a.m. PST. That's at patreon.com/Truncata, TRUNCATA, or reach out to one of us on Instagram. or otherwise, if you want to pay for it, you get lectures. If you don't want to pay for it, you can just join us. Yeah, that's my whole thing.
Cool. John, do you have anything to pitch besides your juicy beehole?
Yeah, no, I'm just still waiting for a dedicated listener / viewer to find all the Easter eggs I've hidden that lead to my OnlyFans account. But obviously,
I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true.
It's a totally true thing.
You are gonna have some poor, desperate women, some of whom I know quite well, searching all of our garbage fucking videos, looking for clues to what lead to heartbreak. I know who you are, John. You're just gonna love them and leave them.
You know what? To photos of coconut oil dripping across my spread asshole.
You know, I thought it was weird because a lot of people have been sending me messages telling me to put on a wig and do blackface.
Oh, I don't think a lot of people have been sending you messages.
No, a lot of people have been sending me messages.
I think this is a Trump kind of. A lot of people are saying. Kind of moment.
Could you just do that and do just like a slow jerk? And I'm like, I could. I guess it seems weird.
Yeah. Why do you want me to do this? What has brought this on? Yeah.
And just like say your own name but pretend your name is John. And I'm like, oh, that's a pretty normal name. I guess it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Very common.
Oh yeah. You should do it. You can make a lot of money.
I am John.
All right. Well, on that note,
guys.
we clearly love you. Please take your medicine.
Please take mine too.
And make sure to save some for your friends.